Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head. I'm Carrie Oderman with UATV. Today we're going to summarize the 2019 achievements in creating the Orthodox Church of Ukraine. Just to remind you, back on January 6th of this year, His All-Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew signed the Tomos of Autocephaly for the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, formally establishing the words 15th Autocephalous Orthodox Church. The road to receiving this Tomos was long and fraught with obstruction from Russia. So what's next for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church? To talk more about this, we're joined in the studio today by Lyudmyla Filipovych. She's a religious studies scholar. Thank you for joining us. 2019 is a very important year for the Church. Why don't you summarize what's happened?
If we summarize very briefly, for this church, this is a very successful year because this church was established, maybe not established, but re-established, because it united three different branches of the Ukrainian Orthodoxy. This is Autocephalic Orthodoxy Church, this is Kiev Patriarchate Orthodox Church, and the part of Moscow Patriarchate Church. It's a very important event in our life because for a long time Ukrainians wanted to have such a united church, and now we have it. It's very important even for future because, if you know, Ukrainian church is maybe the most historical one on this territory, because from these hills, from this place, the Christianity began their way to the civilization world of Europe. And I think that Ukrainians were very successful in the development of literature, language, architecture, different cases of arts and many others. So many years ago, in 10th century, we became the Christian people, and now we try to keep this our mission for all countries around Ukraine.
It's not just a religious question, though, is it? There's also some political elements to it, because by joining these three branches within Ukraine, you were also separating from the Russian branch, and not everyone was pleased about this. What steps did Russia take to try to put hurdles in the way of this move?
For Ukrainians, it's not only the religious question, but you are right, this political one, because we try to unite two kinds of identification. The national identification and the religious. Or we think that this is Orthodox identification. Ukrainian church, this is now the separate autocephalic independent church in the big family of Orthodox churches of the world, Ecumenical Orthodoxy. And we now stand on the last point of this whole hierarchy, the 15th point, but I think that we could show to the world, and especially to the Orthodox world, that we are equal part of ecumenical orthodoxy. The process of separation from a Russian Orthodox Church were very, very complicated and very difficult for us. Ukrainians many times tried to separate from this church, and all this history, which we calculate about 500 years, were full of different histories and different steps of the separation. And maybe 100 years ago, it was the beginning of 20th century, the revolutionary in Ukraine, and not in Ukraine, but in Russia, when Ukrainian church maybe first time so louder demonstrate their decision and their wishes to be independent from the Russia. In that time, the autocephalic church was established, and unfortunately all hierarchy were killed by Soviet power, because for that kind of empire there are not necessary to have the independent spiritual or religious organization which spread through Ukrainians. So now we continue this our fight for independent church, and I are very happy that we finish this process by the acceptance of Tomos from the Patriarch of Constantinople, from Bartholomew, in the beginning of this year. And now we have a legitimate document which only prove our right to be the equal church with the other Orthodox churches.
Now, when you broke away from the Moscow Patriarchy, there were also probably some structural things that needed to change. There are many churches in Kiev. Some of them were Russian Orthodox, some are now Ukrainian Orthodox. How are things like this cleared up?
This is a difficult problem, but I think that Ukrainians could to solve this problem many years ago in natural way. We decided what temple will belong to one or another church. This is the right of community, and religious community decided what church is the mother church for them, and what juridical base is for the life, religious life of this church. Now in Kiev, you're right, we have the main two Orthodox churches. This is Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Moscow Patriarchate, and now the United Church, the Orthodox Church of Ukraine. This is the official title of this church, which was established at the beginning of this year. But this is not a new church, because the historical part of Ukrainian Orthodoxy. And now there are very important process how to become from the United Church, the unificated church, or we say about the unified church. It's a very strong and a very difficult way, because we need to combine the different parts of Ukrainian Orthodoxy. For a long time, this all part lived according to their own rules and according their own traditions. But I think what could be the main idea for such kind of unification or united process? This is the concept of open Orthodoxy. If you are open, you could include different part, and I think that this open Orthodoxy, this is a good idea and a good theory and a good practice how to unite different part of Ukrainian Orthodoxy.
So this idea of being an inclusive religion, how have the parishioners seen the changes in the past year? How have normal members of churches felt the difference that's taken place within the past 12 months?
Ordinary believers supported this process, and Ukrainians, it is not aggressive for people. They prefer to have the understanding between one another. And when this church was established, it was a period of overcoming the differences between different parts of Ukrainian Orthodoxy, between different believers, between even the part of families, because I know that, for example, parents could go by tradition to another church, but their children go to a new church, for example, to Autocephalic or Kiev Patriarchate Church. Now they could gather and could meet in one church, and it's a good idea how to unite it not only on religious basis, but how to unite all Ukrainian people. And this church give a good signal for all Ukrainian society that we could overcome this stereotype. Maybe you heard about this when there are 2 Ukrainians and 3 hetmans. Now we could show for Ukrainians that we could be together, we could be under one idea about the unity, and not only in religious sense, but in political and in social sense. So I think that the future of this church will be very, very successful, but we need to work every day and every time. So, good idea, good realization, good perspective for next future, especially for those who are interested, really interested, to have a very strong and very successful and happiness Ukraine.
Well, the new church is, or the United Church is certainly not only a religious symbol, but also a political symbol here in Ukraine. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Lyudmyla Filipovych. She's the head of Religious Studies Department at the Institute of Philosophy. Thank you for watching Head to Head, and stay tuned for more.